Hey everyone, we're about to get started. All right, hey everyone, welcome to Sankofa Video Books and Cafe. I'm Christina Joy, the event coordinator. We're here at 2714 Georgia Avenue Northwest, directly across from Howard University, HU.
You know.
Thank you. Tonight we have a special guest, Dr. Oduwa Meadow. I'm going to read a little bit of his bio and he's going to take it away. Dr. Oduwa Meadow has since 1975 been a member of the Washington, D.C. Traditional Area Auset Society International. Dr. Oduwa is responsible for overseeing the programs, projects, and activities of Auset Society in D.C., Maryland, Virginia, Bermuda, and Toronto, Canada. Under Oduwa's leadership, 2 schools have been established in Washington, D.C., spanning over 27 years. He has also provided leadership to launch services and businesses such as Sinbad Cafe and National Foods, serving food for over 25 years, Suwale African Boutique operating over 20 years, and the Oracle of Tenerife, providing classes and spiritual training over 35 years in the Kemetic way of life. He has led multiple excursions to countries in the African diaspora, including Ghana, Sierra Leone, Nigeria, Guinea, Benin, and Brazil, and coordinated contributions and activities to enhance infrastructure development in Ghana, including donations of over $300,000 in medical and educational equipment, supplies, 200,000 samplings for reforestation projects in Agogo, and $10,000 to Otumfo Education Fund. Dr. Oduwa has a BA in African American Studies and a Master's in Educational Psychology and Educational Technology from Howard University, and a PhD in African Art and Culture from Kwame Ture University of Science and Technology in Kumasi, Ghana. He is the author of 2 books, Yes, We Cancer, If I Had to Do It All Over Again, My Personal Journey. That's a lot. And a Virginia's Meadow, Winter's Prayer. A Virgin's Meadow, Winter's Prayer, Story About Love. And without further ado.
This is my voice tonight. She is my voice tonight. But probably does read some samples from the text.
You said we're going to read some samples from the text.
Yeah, we don't understand.
The first one is from the story, A Virgin Meadow's Winter's Prayer, a story about love. And I'll start with caption on the back of the book. Karl and Karen first met at Howard University as freshmen in 1969. At that time, Howard was in the second year of a great awakening of Black consciousness, as students were demanding the university be more relevant to the needs and interests of the Black community. Understanding the principle that the power to define is the power to control, as articulated in the book Black Power, the seminal work of Kwame Ture, Stokely Carmichael, and Charles Hamilton, they changed their names to Kwesi and Kemba. This began their quest to become the change they sought externally in their own lives, further realizing that a strong Black community is predicated on strong Black families. They committed to marriage. 7 years and 2 children later, Kwesi finds himself in an African-American owned bookstore. The store is owned and operated by a sister named Auset. This encounter becomes the fuel which reignites his desire to recommit to becoming the change he sought to strengthen the Black community. The rest is his story. I'll start with, if you have the book, page 6, the author's preface. The Western world has mastered the process of ensuring that prior to undertaking any significant project, the primary individuals involved can produce documentation, certifying their qualifications to engage in said undertaking. As part of the insuring process, they have even developed insurance products and legal statutes to protect the interests of individuals who may experience harm if the certified person fails to perform up to the standards of their established discipline. This is especially true when lives are at stake. This reminds me of the Chris Rock joke about a few bad apples, referring to the excuse we often hear about bad policing in the Black community. Chris says, there are some professions where you can't have a few bad apples. American Airlines can't say, some of our pilots like to land our planes safely. The examples which can be presented are voluminous. However, let's select a couple to illustrate this point. If you need major surgery, meaning you're putting your life in the hands of someone with a knife, you are going to do all you can do to make sure the surgeon you choose is qualified for the job. You want to make sure his resume includes successful operations, or at the very least, the doctor has completed all the required training from a credentialed medical school, not St. Elsewhere, to prepare them to be successful. Perhaps you want to purchase a new home that you want to be built from the ground up. You have a budget of $500,000. Aren't you going to make sure that the builder has all the required skills, training, and experience required to ensure your new home will not fall down around you? Or worse yet, fall down on you? Don't you want to make sure that when you flush a toilet, the waste won't fill the living room? Don't you want to make sure that when you switch on the lights, the house doesn't explode? I mean, are you really going to accept as the builder's qualification that they have watched all the episodes of Property Brothers? Of course not. Of course not, you scream. Hell, excuse my American. My barber cannot hang up a shingle without proving he has passed the required coursework to cut my hair. Everywhere in Western society, the need to provide documentation that an individual has at the very least some basic skill, competence to perform a specific task. All that is required. Everywhere that is, except what some would argue is the most important area of life, marriage, mate relationships. A bad surgery can leave someone scarred for life. So too can a bad marriage. A bad surgery can literally alter the course of someone's life. So too can a bad relationship. A bad surgery can lead to the end of life. The surgery was successful, but the patient died. So too can a bad marriage. A bad investment in a home or something else can lead to financial ruin. So too can a bad relationship. With all of that and more being possible, why is it that a person in the Western world can go through 12 years of basic education, 4 years of undergraduate school, 2 years of graduate school, and 3 more years of postgraduate school, and not receive one course in being a husband or wife? Not to mention, not one course in being a parent. Why are people in the Western world left to figure these things out on their own? Is there no institutional knowledge that can be passed down to prepare people for assuming what is arguably their most important role in life? If learning to fly a plane was left up to this model of self-discovery, and the term self-discovery is put in this process in the best possible light, How many American airline pilots would be able to take off, let alone fly and land the plane safely? Can the poets really be trusted to provide quality guidance? Smokey Robinson had a smooth voice, but when he says, "Baby, let's cruise away from here," don't be confused. The way is clear. Is it really? Ashford and Simpson were a great duo, but when they sang, "And for love's sake, each mistake, all you forgave," and now it's solid as a rock. That's what love is. That's what we got. Do they really? No one can question the harmony generated by the Dells. No one can question their commitment to one another. For after all, the group lasted for 60 years. But when they plead to stay in my corner, and I will never let you down. Can you be sure? Because I will need you always around. Are you sure? And just because the Dells were in fact always together when they sang, I made up my mind years ago when I first gazed upon you, I'd never let you go. Come on now, do you really believe never? For far too many people in the Western world, the verse, "When I first gazed upon you, I'd never let you go," translates into about 8 years. That's because in the United States, the average length of first marriages that end in divorce is about 8 years, according to survivedivorce.com. The website continues with some additional sobering statistics as it pertains to divorce in the United States. Accounting for all age groups, statistics and data over the past few years indicate that almost half of all first marriages in the United States end in divorce. The divorce rate for subsequent marriages that end in divorce is even higher than in first marriages. It's estimated that 60% of all second marriages end in divorce, while 73% of third marriages will end in divorce. The bright spot in all of this is that overall, divorce rates in the U.S. are falling. Is it truly better the second time around? With those odds, it's no wonder many people are bypassing the tradition of formal marriage and just hooking up. Might that be why overall divorce rates in the United States are falling? After all, if there is no marriage, there can be no divorce. Or, as an old friend of mine from Howard, Butch Johnson once said, "Start with the itch, and there will be no scratch." Quite frankly, with a 50% rate of failure for marriages, we have better odds at Russian roulette. I mean, with one bullet in a 6-shooter, the odds are only 17% that you will fail. And as Russia leads the Western world in divorces, maybe. A wise man once said, anyone can identify a problem, but the wisdom is in the results of the truth applied to the problem solving. We have spoken on the problem. Is there a solution which is time tested and as such proves to be true? It is obviously not to be found in the Western world. But where else can we look? Africa? Are you serious? And the Divine Kingship of Ashanti, the model for sustainable development of self and community by Hayiwa Duran Comet, PhD. Pages 160 through 162, we find the following discourse between Dr. Comet and Nana Ayin Kumnipa II. Jeddah the Paramount King, Chief of Jeddah. In this discussion, the Jeddah laments about how Western cultural values have seriously weakened the institution of marriage in Ghana. Because of the adoption of Western values, they have eliminated the rites of passage programs, ROPP. The rites of passage programs are the programs for the institutional knowledge in traditional Africa in general, and in the Asante specifically, is passed down to prepare young men and women for marriage. As a result of the elimination of these, the problems experienced in the Western world have laid siege in Asante and have manifested in increasing rates of divorce. Occasionally, in villages, forums are organized to advise the society on ethical issues. The Jeddah Hedi describes one such active forum in his community to address the growing problem of instability in marriages. As more and more Ashantis are moving toward Western values and practicing Christianity, according to the Paramount chief, marriages are less stable. Divorces are becoming more prevalent. So I'll continue reading further into the book. Chapter 2, moving toward a new beginning. We could not have designed a better day, thought Kwesi, as he stood there taking it all in. It was truly a storybook type of day. Everything was picture perfect. The weather, the environment, the young woman facing him, the sun kissed her copper-colored complexion, creating just the right amount of hue. The pictures are going to be amazing, he continued in thought, as he imagined himself in his dark room, bringing the black negatives to life. Was this truly to be the beginning of his creation story? Welcome, brothers and sisters, bellowed a powerful baritone voice to his right. Snapping his awareness back to the program at hand, there stood an African priest, dressed in a typical three-piece agbada, with a matching round cap with a flat top. The full garment is made of a cream-colored satin material, the texture of which is alternating 2-inch panels running the entire length of the garment. All 4 pieces are embroidered with a gold thread. The lemniscate pattern of the embroidery ran horizontally along the bottom of his pants, the sleeves, collar, and bottom of his fitted long-sleeve shirt, which is cut to his finger's length. It was also featured on the bottom and top edges of the cap, with an ankh in front and center. The ankh is also on the pocket of the fitted top and in the center of the oversized garment, which is cut three-quarter length. As is the custom when African people assemble to acknowledge important events that affect the whole community, such as births, deaths, and weddings, like we are having here today, we pour libation. Libation is the community prayer, where we come together with one mind to give our blessing and support. As everything begins and ends with the Supreme Being, God, by whichever name you choose, is always acknowledged first. And although we who are gathered here today may refer to God by many names, we know and acknowledge the fact that God is the one and only creator of the universe. If that is true, and it is true, someone may ask, why do people refer to God by many different names? The answer is simple. Different people refer to the same one God with different names because we speak different languages. For example, if I am in the USA and I'm hungry, I might ask for some beans and rice because English is the preferred language. If I'm in Mexico, I would ask for frijoles y horas. Y'all forgive me because I don't know necessarily how to pronounce all these. So. In France, haricot et riz. In Germany, Woknen und Braves. In Russian, yeah. And in Kenya, Maharagwe Namche. Well done. If I gather these dishes and put them all on the same table, could you tell the plates of the Russian dish from the plates of the haricot and riz? If both dishes are seasoned the same, Could you taste the difference between the freshmen and hombres and the frijoles y arroz? Would the nutritional value of the Russian dish be greater than that of the beans and rice? Of course not. Of course not, you cried. Beans and rice will be beans and rice regardless of the language which the consumer speaks. Whether I eat them in Zimbabwe or Zurich, they will be the same. The language used does not improve or diminish the quality or the value of the dish. And the same is true with God. Using one language over another does not and cannot elevate the one God over itself. The differences people ascribe to God are just that. Differences people ascribe to God. Talking about God in Arabic does not make God any better than it is if I talk about God in Zulu. The only difference is in the word being used and not the quality of the being. All right, I'm skipping ahead. This is from chapter. Also chapter 2. How could he not fall in love with such beauty and brains? She is the one. He says to himself in a reassuring way. Above all else, he is committed to do whatever he can do so that his children don't have to grow up separated from one parent or the other as he did. Kemba starts to speak. Proposal. Let us, you and me, create a new world together. Let's follow God's plan, for who knows better? Let ours reflect his one truth. All is life, is all. We won't fuss over our view of things, their means, not the ends. All things have a place in time. So let's follow that law for the proper plan. We must plant positive seeds in fertile soil, knowing when to rest and when to toil, when to harvest what we've reaped, what to give and what to keep, how to carry ourselves each day, and how to mend what is frayed. We'll combine persistence and determination with just the proper blend, growing more in love each day while striving toward our end. So let us, you and me, we, create a new world together. Let's follow God's plan, for who knows better? Let ours reflect her one truth. All is life, is all. The minister looks to Kwesi, who is smiling from ear to ear, and nods to grant him the floor. Kwesi, peering warmly into his bride's eyes, begins. Share. If I can supply to think that you need, no matter how much or what it may be, even though it's been dear and mine all alone, if you can be happy with part of what I've known, then how can I possibly do anything other than share it with you? Does not the earth, where minerals abound, give of its essence to the trees on the ground? Does not that essence flow on through the tree, producing seed and seedling for little deer to eat? And doesn't that sweet nectar that strengthens the doe, who sacrifices her body for the little fawn to grow? So how can I possibly do anything other than share with you? For I, like the tree, did need to stand, and someone gave me a much needed hand. And I, like the doe, nourishment did me, and someone who cared, my hunger did feed. And once like the farm, I too was dependent, and some unselfish one, my needs, they attended. So how can I possibly do anything other than share with you? For what if the earth should decide not to give? The tall, strong tree could no longer live. And when the tree perished, so too would its seed. Then how much longer could the poor doe breathe? How many more times would she witness the dawn? And how could she possibly give birth to the fawn? And where would I be? And could I survive if there were no we and your needs not supplied? So if I can supply the thing that we need, no matter how much or what it may be, even though it's been dear, mine all alone, if you can be happy with just part of what I've known, then I can't possibly righteously do anything other than share it with you. Quieting the oohs and ahs from the crowd, the priest says the words, and all in attendance have waited patiently to hear. As God, the ancestors, and community are here to witness, I now pronounce you family, husband and wife. You may kiss your wife. Never has there ever been a more passionate kiss.
Any questions? I'm going to now go to the end of the book. And play a piece that the other Gregory sing. Theme song for the book.
Shall I translate?
Yes.
Now we're going to hear the song, which is from the end of the book, which Ayana Gregory so graciously sang. Okay, we're just gonna hear part of the song.
If I should pass you on the street, and if our eyes should meet, and the usual warmth there isn't there, rest assured they still care, and they're willing that in time they'll share. If we close for a while in a crowd, and my lips part not to smile, no move on to say more than a hello or how's your day. Memories of thoughts locked behind me, and they're sowing the seeds until they'll speak. Voice we need to know and to know the conditions they face are harsh and cold. They're like a frozen stream. I worry hard but firm, but deep within into those
Anyone have any questions? Yes, ma'am, there will be an audio book. It's in front. Blesses. Then in the audiobook, you'll get to hear the whole song. Yeah. The whole story. Anybody else have any questions? So next I'll move on to the next book. I'll pull the author here. Yes, we can, sir. If I had to do it all over again, things I knew, didn't know, in hindsight would like to have known. By Meadow, PhD. Diagnosed with stage 3 prostate cancer in February 2021. Orwa Hehimudu, PhD, chronicles his journey from then to February 2022, when, by virtue of a PSA test, it was determined his cancer is non-detectable. Already a vegan, upon receiving his diagnosis, he transformed his diet and lifestyle and engaged in alternative therapies, which enabled Dr. Kemba to reduce both the tumor size and PSA number by more than 50% in 6 months, his impactful period, IP. This fact is verified by the lab reports included in the book. Upon witnessing the transformation of his cancer during that IP, Denise Sutherland Phillips, MD, suggested this book be written. It should also be noted that the protocols, products, and practices followed by Dr. Kemba were not specific to or for cancer of the prostate, but could benefit people dealing with other forms of cancer as well. In researching for this book, Dr. Kemba was afforded the opportunity to look back at his life, and this retrospection can and does serve as a light which can help guide us out of this. American Cancer Society states 1 in 3 persons in the United States will receive a cancer diagnosis in their lifetime. Therefore, we can ill afford the luxury of ignoring the possible impacts of this dreaded disease. We should all learn as we can now to mitigate cancer's future impacts. Hence the title. The old idea that cancer is the result of a singular input, smoking equals lung cancer, must be broadened with the understanding that our overall environment must be evaluated. We can no longer put the entire weight of this problem on known carcinogenic behaviors equal cancer. It is true that smoking can and does contribute to cancer in the lungs and elsewhere, but its contribution is accentuated by other factors in the environment. If 1 out of every 3 fish in a pond is diseased, shouldn't we take a closer look at the pond, their environment for solutions? Or, as spoken by Dr. Francis Collins, former director of the National Institutes of Health, genetics loads the gun, environment pulls the trigger. Yes, we can control our environment.
PSA.
I'm sorry.
PSA.
Now,
What does it mean?
Oh, what is a PSA count?
Prostate specific.
Prostate
Did everyone hear that?
specific antigen.
Thank you, prostate specific antigen. Dedication. This book is dedicated to the loving memory of my grandfathers, David Cook and H. Marshall Reed, my father, Lee Cook, and my brothers, Gary Cook and Nana Auset Koto Amwatem, from another mother, all of whom died from cancer, and to the loving memories you hold of those who you have lost to cancer as well. Author's preface. Let me say up front and personal that I am not a doctor, and I've never played one on TV. That being the case, nothing in this book is intended to offer, convey, diagnose, or prescribe any treatment to anyone. This is my experience with cancer, and is offered in the spirit of sharing just that, my experience. Probably the three most dreaded words you can hear from your doctor are, "You have cancer." For some younger or middle-aged women, maybe second only to, "You're pregnant." Not my words. According to the American Cancer Society, ACS, for those of us who live in the U.S., 1 in 3 people will be diagnosed with cancer in their lifetime. But what is cancer? In layman's terms, it is a development when your body's normal functions on the cellular level stop functioning properly, and the deviant cells receive support from your surrounding cells and environment. For more specific explanation, I offer the following from a New York Times interview. The old view is that cancer is a linear process, says Dr. Barnett Kramer, Associate Director for Disease Prevention at the National Institutes of Health. A cell acquired a mutation, and little by little it required more and more mutations. Mutations are not supposed to reverse spontaneously. So, Dr. Kramer said, image was an arrow that moved in one direction. But now, he added, it is becoming increasingly clear that cancers require more than mutations to progress. They need the cooperation of surrounding cells, and even, he said, the whole organism, the person, whose immune system or hormone levels, for example, can squelch or fuel a tumor. The fact that cancer cells within my body are deviances within my body is, or should be, a comforting thought. As Dr. Anthony Laskin put it, it is your own DNA embedded, malfunctioning within your body, which is supported by the ACS statement from their website. Cancer is not contagious. You cannot catch cancer from someone else. Close contact or things like sex, kissing, touching, sharing meals, or breathing the same air cannot spread cancer. Cancer cells from someone with cancer are not able to live in the body of another healthy person. The immune system finds and destroys foreign cells, including cancer cells from another person. The fact that cancer is not contagious is or should be reassuring to family, friends, healthcare workers, co-workers, and anyone else who comes into contact with the person, close contact with the person diagnosed with this disease. It should also be emphasized that a family member having a particular cancer does not automatically sentence you to the same fate. Drawing again from the ACS website, the fact that cancer might happen more often in certain families does not mean that the family members have spread cancer to each other. Reasons for this include family members share the same genes. Families may have similar unhealthy lifestyles, diet and smoking, for example. Family members might all be exposed to the same cancer-causing agent. Or, as spoken by Dr. Francis Collins, Director of the National Institutes of Health, NIH, genetics loads the gun. Environment pulls the trigger. It is also important to know that not all cancer cells in your body are life-threatening. As the quote below indicates, if you are in your middle years or older, you probably have cancerous or precancerous cells in your body at this very moment, which may or may not become life-threatening. When I first received my diagnosis, I spoke to Dr. Anthony Waskamp, who told me that many people with cancer of the prostate live for years and often die from something else. My wife later informed me that an old friend of hers had been living with prostate cancer for 20 years. Fortunately or unfortunately, mine would not wait that long and required a more active approach. The idea that not all cancers in your body are life-threatening is supported by the following quote from the same New York Times interview quoted above. Cancer cells and precancerous cells are so common that nearly everyone by middle age or old age is riddled with them, says Thea Tilsty, a professor of pathology at the University of California, San Francisco. That was discovered in autopsy studies of people who died of other causes, with no idea that they had cancer cells or precancerous cells. They did not have large tumors or symptoms of cancer. The really interesting question, Dr. Tilsty said, is not so much why do we get cancer as why don't we get cancer? Chapter 1. I have just received my diagnosis. Now what? Note to self. This can be a confusing, questioning, and anxious time in one's life. It can motivate one to act or to shut down all movement. Your response in this case, as in all others in life, will be largely based on what you know or don't know. Not knowing often leads to fear of the unknown. We all know people who have died from cancer. In my case, the list includes both my father and brother, my father's father, my mother's father, and several friends. But we should also know people who have had cancer and not died. Cancer does not have to be a death sentence. Cancer can be an opportunity to extend one's fellowship and knowledge of self, and a strong motivation to get one's house in order. If I had to do it all over again, this is what I'd do. Some of it I did. The order of the steps is not just sequential and linear, but to be handled concurrently as well. 1. Find a physician who practices functional or integrative medicine. According to the Institute of Functional Medicine, IFM, functional medicine determines how and why illnesses occur and restore health by addressing the root causes of disease for each individual. IFM believes health and vitality are essential to the human spirit. We work to advance the highest expression of individual health by advocating for access to functional medicine care for all. To achieve this goal, our work is primarily focused in these 5 areas. 1. Education. We train functional medicine clinicians to act as change agents in reversing the epidemic of chronic disease. 2. Access. We facilitate the broadcast possible integration of functional medicine into global healthcare system. 3. Economics. We ensure that the practice of functional medicine is economically viable for providers, patients, and payers. 4, collaboration and development. We create and support key alliances that advance IFM's mission to make functional medicine care accessible to all. 5, research. We catalyze and facilitate clinical research that supports functional medicine model. According to the Andrew Weil Center for Integrative Medicine, IM, integrative medicine is healing-oriented medicine that takes account of the whole person, including all aspects of lifestyle. It emphasizes the therapeutic relationship between practitioner and patient, is informed by evidence, and makes use of all appropriate therapies. The defining principles of integrative medicine are as follows. 1, patient and practitioner are partners in the healing process. 2, all factors that influence health, wellness, and disease are taken into consideration, including mind, spirit, and community, as well as the body. 3, appropriate use of both conventional and alternative methods facilitates the body's innate healing response. 4, effective interventions that are natural and less invasive should be used whenever possible. 5, integrative medicine neither rejects conventional medicine nor accepts alternative therapies uncritically. 6, good medicine is based in good science. It is inquiry-driven and open to new paradigms. 7, alongside the concept of treatment, the broader concepts of health, promotion, and the prevention of illness are paramount. 8, practitioners of integrative medicine should exemplify its principles and commit themselves to self-exploration and self-development. Both functional and integrative doctors will not just look at the cancer in isolation, but will get the root of the cause and treat you as a whole person who has an illness. Remember the quote from Dr. Collins, genetics loads the gun, environment pulls the trigger? Provided your cancer has been diagnosed early, take the time to properly investigate the possible environmental influences which have contributed to your cancer. The doctor you've chosen should be a valuable assistant in this detective work. They will also initiate treatment and protocols to address the illness, understanding that a rising tide lifts all boats. Improving one's overall health will assist the body in correcting any illness present. Take time to study about cancer, its nature, development, and successful protocols and practices used to defeat it. About 2 years prior to my diagnosis, I watched a video series called The Truth About Cancer, Eastern Medicine, Journey Through Asia. 7-part documentary. In this documentary series, I learned several important points. A, cancer does not develop overnight and is normally slow moving. This means that normally there is no rush to address it. That does not mean you should ignore it, but rather move expeditiously, deliberately, and with knowledge of your disease. Your assessment should also include the treatment options available and of those which ones you might want to pursue. B, cancer does not have to be a death sentence. C, cancer cells and precancerous cells are so common that nearly everyone by middle age or old age is ready. Make sure you get a full blood workup before you start treatment, especially a CD4/8, which gives you an overall picture of the effectiveness of your immune system. Anytime you change or modify your treatment, retest the appropriate blood markers to accurately monitor the effect and effectiveness of the modification. For example, let's say your initial test result for the absolute CD4 helper is 1,000, which falls within the reference interval normal range of 359 to 1519. And your and your absolute CD8 suppressor is 500, which falls within the reference interval normal range of 109 to 897. And you choose a 6-week course of chemotherapy. Then you retest, and your CD4 is 200, and the CD8 is 50. Since both are now low, you and your functional or integrative doctor will then be armed with the information needed to adjust your care. Additionally, make sure you have your functional or integrative medical doctor do all the cancer screenings available prior to you choosing a specialist to handle your care. This is important because once you choose a specialist, the insurance company will, in most cases, defer to the specialist in terms of any diagnostic tests or procedures they will cover. Number 4, make sure you have insurance which will cover the services you choose. If radiation is your choice, my suggestion is that you select proton radiation therapy, PRT. PRT is targeted and low-dose option that lowers the risk in terms of potential side effects experienced from traditional radiation therapy.
Sorry, folks.
No problem.
Her eyes being messed up.
Thank you. Hope you're keeping up with me. I wasn't. Back to number 4. Yes. Proton radiation therapy, PRT, is a targeted and low-dose option that lowers the risk in terms of potential side effects experienced from traditional radiation therapy. Side effects of traditional radiation include damage to skin and treatment area, damage to surrounding tissue and organs, and development of a second tumor caused by the radiation. If your insurance does not cover the options for your care that you want to employ, and with the advice of your doctor, you will probably want to change it to a policy that does cover what you want. For example, there are only 3 PRT centers in the Washington, D.C. area. I met a person named Donnie Wilson who had to delay treatment for a period to change to a policy which covered PRT. A small deferment, you may think. However, he valued the PRT option so much that he chose to travel more than 500 miles to access it. Not only did he have to wait to begin treatment, but he also had to travel in advance of beginning consultations with the doctor and stay in a hotel for over a month while being treated. 5, cultivate good, solid friendships, relationships, and spiritual community. No one should have to fight cancer alone. The more allies you have, the better your odds at winning the war. While waiting on my treatment, I met a couple of persons, including the person mentioned above, who traveled from distances too far to commute and stayed in a hotel with their spouse for an extended period of time. 6, cancer therapies are not cheap. As the ACS says, 1 in 3 Americans will be affected by cancer, which means they will need to save some money to help with the good fight. Good insurance, friends, family, and spiritual community are important here as well, as they can and most likely will come to your assistance. This is especially true if you would have the well-being of others as a focus in your life. 7, and last but far from least, it is extremely helpful if you have an objective means of spiritual communication that will give you insight into what energies are required for your care. This can also give you a barometer to gauge which treatments to include in your therapy. For example, when I received my diagnosis, I used the Meadow Oracle system by Dr. Raul Neferamen and did the following 3 readings. 1. Comments on my condition. Response. Auset and Meadow. 2. Comment on the lesson I am to learn from this illness. Response. Seven and Auset. 3. Comments on my going to Sibley Hospital and receiving proton radiation therapy. Response. Secker and Auset. From the above 3 readings, it is easy to see that 1, my becoming one with the principle energy Auset is foundational in addressing my illness, as is my tapping into and identifying with the essential nature of my spirit, which is peace. Amen. 2, Auset is also going to be critical in my being receptive to modifying my ideas and beliefs, 7, about life and cancer, and my approach to both, to truly learn this life lesson. And 3, proton radiation at the hospital I chose is going to be a lengthy process, Secker. But it is in the cards, so to speak, and will also aid in the potential resolution of the illness, Auset. This information is not just important in the physical part of my healing, but it is equally important in shaping the mental and spiritual focus of my healing, mind, body, and spirit. This will be discussed in chapter 3. I'm going to keep going. Chapter 2. I haven't received a diagnosis. Now what? Notes to 25-year-old self. With regards to finances, don't just live in the moment. Plan for generational wealth creation and protection. Note 1, finances. Dick Gregory had a joke he used to tell, which went something like this. The life insurance business is rigged. You are betting you're going to live, and they're betting you're going to die. Who do you think is going to win? The wealthy use life insurance as a way of generating and passing on wealth generationally, whereas the rest of us use life insurance as a way of burying our deceased. 25-year-old self, with regards to wealth generation, take time and execute the wise advice you will be given, especially as it relates to property ownership. Remember what your college professor told you one day as you were talking after class. Invest in real estate. It will always be in demand, and they are not making any more of it. What he didn't say, and could not have known, in 1970 was that federal government had outlawed black ownership in their federal housing programs, and that banks redlined property in certain areas, refusing to give loans to blacks who were often more qualified than white folk who received them. The federal government also had a hand in disenfranchising 1 million black families in the South of 12 million acres of farmland. According to the Equal Justice Initiative, in an article posted on their website dated October 11, 2019, we read the following. Black landowners in the South have lost 12 million acres of farmland over the past century, mostly from the 1950s onward. The Atlantic reports that 1 million black families have been ripped from their farms in a war waged by deed of title and propelled by white racism and local white power. Starting with the New Deal agencies in 1937, federal agencies whose white administrators often ignored or targeted poor Black people, denying them loans and giving sharecropping work to white people, became the safety net, price setter, chief investor, and sole regulator for most of the farm economy in places like the Delta. As small farms failed, large plantations grew into huge industrial mega farms with enormous power over agricultural policy. Illegal pressures applied through USDA loan programs created massive transfers of wealth from Black to white farmers in the period just after the 1950s. 500,000 Black-owned farms across the country failed between 1950 and 1975. Black farmers lost about 6 million acres from 1950 to 1969. Black-owned cotton farms in the South almost completely disappeared. And in Mississippi, from 1950 to 1964, Black farmers lost almost 800,000 acres of land, which translates to a financial loss of more than $3.7 billion in today's dollars. The instances listed above are some of the measures which were put in place and or supported by the U.S. federal government, often in concert with state and local governments, to either deny or steal real estate from Black people. If you remove what is real from a person or people's state, what is left? According to 3 articles published over the last 4 years by Philanthropy News Digest, Newsweek, and Forbes, by removing real estate from many Black families, the median wealth of Black households today nationally is $17,499, which is just 10.2% of the median wealth of white families, which is $171,000. In Boston, it is only $8, compared with white Bostonians averaging a net worth of $247,500. And they are estimating that by the year 2053, the average net worth for Black households will be $0. By the year 2053, the average net worth for Black households will be $0. In spite of all that, 25-year-old self, you will have the opportunity to own various pieces of property since that conversation sees it, and struggle to maintain that ownership. Remember what your first mother, mommy to you, and Miss Martha to others, always said. It's a poor rat that ain't got but one hole. Don't just listen to your grandmother, but follow her example. Lena Cook, my father's mother, worked hard, cooking, cleaning, and babysitting to scrape together enough money to purchase land for her family. She did not have a college degree, but she was a master in generational wealth creation. She put in her will that the property she owned, including her home, could not be sold outside of the family for 150 years after her death. How many pieces of Black-owned real estate would still be in Black hands if the owners had included that 150-year statement in their wills, and the families honored their last will and testament? If more Black folk had my grandmother's wisdom and foresight, we as a people would be better off financially today. However, you will have to learn that a will, though important to have, is not enough to ensure that ownership of Black-owned property will remain Black-owned after the person passes on. That even though my grandmother included in her will the statement that her property could not be sold outside of the family for 150 years after her death, the house she lived in is unfortunately no longer owned by our family. Why, you may ask? Because a will can be contested, or for some other reason, end up in court of law under a process called probate. Probate is the process by which a judge determines what happens with whatever property is included in the estate. And the sale of my grandmother's home was mandated. This leads us to the next important tool you must learn about and use to secure your family's future: the trust. As I learned from Garner figures, trusts are vehicles the wealthy establish to preserve and make sure their assets are protected for future generations. If my grandmother's house had been in a trust, no judge or court would have any say in denying her desire that the home could not be sold outside of the family for 150 years after her death. In other words, our family would still own the real estate. And, dare I say, a whole lot of other Black families would own their real estate as well. The final point we need to make about the rule of 72 is that not only can you have your money work for you, but it also can work against you. Remember, the rule of 72 shows how many years it takes for money to double based on the interest rate. If you remember our earlier example, showed that if I'm receiving 4% interest on money deposited, it would take 18 years for my money to double, as 4 divides into 17, 18 times. But how can the rule of 72 work against you? Let's say you borrow $2,000 on a credit card, and the card company charges 18% interest. As 72 divided by 18 is 4, your $2,000 in 4 years is now $4,000. In 8 years, it's $8,000. In 12 years, it's $160,000. As most credit cards are issued by banks, you will soon realize it is a losing proposition if you just pay the minimum payment requested each month, as it does nothing to reduce your balance. This is the same bank, mind you, that is paying you 0% interest on the loan you're giving them as your savings, and many of them will run a cash back scheme when you use your card. They may charge you as much as 28% interest, which is compounding and giving you 3% back of a purchase. That's why it is better to save money in an IUL policy. At least the insurance company is willing to share the interest it's making on your money with you. This is my summary note to self. Over the course of your life, you will have a lot of money pass through your hands. Don't be a poor rat. A. Invest in real estate when the opportunity arises. B. Save money in an IUL, whole life and investment policy. C. Avoid term insurance. You will spend a lot, and at the end of the term, you'll have nothing. You may consider TI as a short-term solution to cover a gap in coverage while you await your IUL policy's value to increase. D. Be mindful of the effects of both positive and negative that compound interest and the rule of 72 will have on your finances. E. Understand that the true value of financial wealth is not how much you have, but how much you can keep and pass on to the next 5 generations. F. Read the book, What Would Rockefeller Do? And do what Rockefeller did. Put your assets in a trust. If you and other Black people don't control real estate, it is estimated that by the year 2053, the average net worth of Black households will be $0 and 0 cents.
questions so far? Any questions any asked so far?
I have a question.
Yes.
My question is, through your journey, on your cancer journey, all of this came out of that? With the, you know, the whole summary thing with the, trust and.
Yeah. Give me some time to clean up stuff.
Sure.
Any other questions? Yes.
Do a normal blood test alert doctors that there's something wrong and that there could be cancer growing in your body?
No, but they do it for blood testing. You can not get that. You do that. Special blood test, not number one.
You have to ask, you have to request that from your doctor.
And to pay for it too. Insurance doesn't cover it.
Oh, okay, thank you.
Anything else?
Another question.
Yeah.
You talked about insurance policies. Are there any insurance policies that would cover any type of cancer treatments?
No, yes, it's a crapshoot. You gotta find out what you have. And check the best insurance policies.
So what if you already have insurance policies?
You need to investigate what they're covering.
Okay.
And
So you already have.
any questions?
Yeah, because once you come to the it's not the same. It's very different. I had insurance, I can get it. I don't need to. But, yeah, and it's not really expensive. I'll check it. You know, but I had from that I saw that. He's got about 6 more minutes on the road. He has to stick to, you know, that time. Oh, really? You don't?
I don't know what time it is.
It's 5 minutes to 8.
Oh, okay.
7:55.
Yeah, I mean, you know, I can go over it if you want a little bit, but it's one of those.
You just snap it up.
Stick to this. Yeah.
This side. Maybe outside.
No, it's not, it's not, the building is not shutting down. It's just the bookstore shuts down. Yeah, but I'll be here, so everyone can still make a purchase. It's just, that's our store hours.
Oh. Which y'all doing this? Just you?
Hey, man.
Okay.
It's all right. I was. It's all right.
See,
No, he's different.
He's a bomb, baby. He can face it. Because you will be calling every couple of times. Yeah. All right. Okay.
You all, I know it seems like we're finished because we've had such a huge, long pause in between. So I've been asking you all for the final chapter 3.
Are they here?
Yes. Everyone, I just would like to, I know it seems like we were done because it was a long and terminal break, but I have one final chapter to read to you if you are so inclined. Chapter 3. A Mother's Love by Henry Ryan Thomas. Read at the funeral of my mother, Alara Cook, February 27, 2021.
Oh, I'm not secure.
A Mother's Love by Haiti Madu Ryan Common. It is said by many and demonstrated by most of what a mother will do for her child. She will never boast. It was this past Tuesday, 4 days since you've been gone, and the TV keeps playing the verse of this song. You could not have known in the weeks that preceded discussions about your care that more help was needed. A plan was being formulated that both you and me would soon be moving to my home in DC. You should not have known in the weeks that preceded, with not only your help but mine, attention would be needed. You were never told the reason I was not there, that I was in DC receiving health care. But through spirit, did you know? Though physically not able, you gave what you could as I laid on the surgeon's table. It is said by many and demonstrated by most of what a mother will do for her child. She will never boast. It was this past Tuesday, 4 days since you've been gone. On the TV, Whitney keeps singing the verse of this song. It seemed it was a message through Whitney from you to me, explaining you had to go to set me free. If I should stay, I would only be in your way. So I'll go, but I know I'll think of you every step of the way. And I will always love you, will always love you. I love you too, Mom. The poem above I read at my second mom's funeral. As I indicated in chapter 2, I had moved in with her prior to her 88th birthday so she could remain in her home for more than 50 years. My father had died a few years earlier, and I had made arrangements for a friend from my paternal homeland in Coney, Ghana, Nana Serwa Ajimansu, Queen Mother of Teko, to spend a few months with her. For a period of time, I felt comfortable monitoring her remotely using the security system I had previously installed. Every time someone approached the front door, either the front or the rear door opened, and as she began moving through the house, I would get a notice on my phone and could look in through the cameras I'd installed strategically in the house to see what was going on. Initially, she could even turn the alarm on and off, but later I had to do it remotely as well. She was active in her church, Mount Moriah Missionary Baptist Church, 4 days a week. Her niece, Laverne Smith, a friend of my father's, Marvin Kurtz, and members of her church family were very attentive to her needs. However, it soon became obvious, after my friend returned to Ghana, that my second mother could no longer live alone for safety reasons. My decision to leave DC and move in with her in Richmond, Indiana, was based on the fact that people suffering from mental decline find it difficult, often not possible because of short-term memory challenges, to learn new routines as effectively. I saw this firsthand as a few weeks earlier I had brought her to my home in DC. I didn't get a wink of sleep as I had to constantly monitor her movements as she could not remember where the bathroom was located. In her home at that point, she could not only move to and from the bathroom, but could make her own coffee and navigate in the kitchen to get food from the refrigerator. She could even cook, though she had to be closely monitored as she would often forget she had something on the stove. And you could probably guess what happened a couple of times. However, even with the excellent in-home support provided by her aide for 3 hours a day, it became obvious that I could no longer, without more support, pinned to her alone. With all of the above providing the backdrop, and with the encouragement of my wife, I went to a certified nurse practitioner in Richmond. It was then that I received the first indication that something was wrong with my prostate, as indicated by the result of the prostate-specific antigen test, PSA. My value of 27.8 was well beyond standard range of 0 to 4.
We'll stop there. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Anyone have any questions? Try to translate from our document here. This one? In this box, which is not labeled what you would think it would be, are some items that he was taking during the process. So, all right, we have Super Greens. Nitrous. We have pH Miracles, Power Salts. How would you say that? Power Salts. Yes, Power Salts. We have Perfect Aminos, 8 essential amino acids. We have MCT Wellness, raspberry nectar. Supports production of ketones for more energy, C8 MCT, and polyphenols to support brain health. We have broccoli sprouts. Yum. Powdered broccoli sprouts. The Seth says he. We have Pectosol, modified citrus pectin. Super nutrients. We have keto test. I don't think you took this, but we use this. 3 agent strips for your nails. Yes, keto test. Ooh, organic turmeric tea powder. Mm. That's it for the box. Oh, okay. These were the things he was taking before, and these are the things that he's taking now. We have a Meadow. If you're not familiar, you will be very soon. And Meadow booster. I don't know what's in it, but it looks yummy. Oh, broccoli sprouts in this too. Very good. And magistrol, if I'm saying that correctly. Yay. It's a dietary supplement with all natural salt palmetto.
Like I didn't mention here, but I was also getting glutathione shots when I was going to treatment. So we found great source of glutathione.
Until he found. He was also, what he didn't mention was that that he was taking glutathione shots, and but before he found a better source, which would be Meadow. And she is going to share with us about Meadow.
Oh.
Yay!
Hi. Welcome. Thanks for having me. Is there I'm here. So, thanks for having us. Right? I appreciate you. So, prior to Immunical, I wasn't aware of what all I was taking. That was a lot of stuff, huh? I would hate to have that regimen in the morning. I would hate to have that regimen. So, Immunical, as we see here, one little box with 30 pouches in it, along with your greens booster. That's all your greens, in one little crystallite type of packet that you can just mix with water. And then he had his magistral, which is to help with the prostate. So Immunical is the most important product you can probably ever take in your life. And if you want to live, you want to take it. That's basically what it boils down to. I was introduced to the product. Let's give it up to my uncle and aunt in the back of the room. Kim and Uncle Calvin introduced my whole family to the product back in 2005 in Boston, Mass. And the product works. It works like miracles. And I could be nothing but grateful for it. The whey protein is an isolate whey protein. It is in its purest form, and what it does is it gets through this digestive system, which hardly anything can get through, right? And then it gets into the cells, and it revitalizes everything. So it raises the T cells, and it basically, I like to describe it as a rebirthing situation. And I feel, as I was on the plane this morning explaining it to the lady next to me, because I'm telling everybody, I was just basically telling her she has vitiligo, and what else did she say she had? She had received these spots all on her skin after having a part of her colon removed. And so I spoke to her about the Immunical, which is going to heighten her glutathione levels because it helps us manufacture our own glutathione. She said, what is glutathione? I said, well, glutathione is the master molecule antioxidant in your body that you need to live. And without it, you start to have all these crazy things happening to your system. And because you went into surgery and didn't prep your body for that surgery, possibly, you have now had an outbreak for something else. And so we're going to try it out on you. And I've not seen or have heard of any results, and I'm excited on vitiligo. Am I saying it right? Vitiligo, Myron. And my stepmother has it, but she does not take the product. So I want to encourage this lady. And this is just, I'm saying this story because you come across people all day, every day, that needs this product. And it can help any and everyone. I've had 3 babies. Yes, 3. I'm turning because people can't believe that I have 3 kids. And this product is the epitome of the snapback. So we have women who get surgery for the snapback, and that is when you lose the baby weight. And so my kids take it, my dog has taken it, my plants have taken it, and so the lady on the plane next to me can take it, and all 156 seats can take it. And so I was telling everyone on my way down here, and it excites me. This lovely man here drove me from the airport today, and he saw me what? How was I?
Tired.
I'm tired. He's like, you're sleepy? I stayed up all night last night. I got off the plane and then did my little shake up, right? Took me a little quick power nap and Russell says, oh, you look good. I'm on 1 hour sleep. That is what this product does for you. So I'm very excited that you are using just this and this and that, as opposed to, what was that, 9 items in that box there?
That's only some of them.
That's only some of it. And he was doing a glutathione shots, in which we do know that that is a temporary situation. I compare that to this product as like Tylenol, ibuprofen of glutathione. And so the product definitely works, and that's why we are all here today. If you are on Immunical, can you please raise your hand? We have 1 person, 2 people.
Some, I do take some.
Okay, you take, how about you? You have not been introduced to it yet?
This is my first time hearing that.
Oh, well, we have to,
But it's very, very interesting.
it is very,
I was wondering how do we get it? But since they are taking it, I know.
you know where to get it. You can get it from all 20 of us.
Information, how to get it.
Yes, you are definitely always here to assist you on that. And I would love to hear your story now that I'm meeting you for the first time, and I know you do not or have not taken it.
As I'm sitting here, I'm thinking, one of my sons must be taking Punjera. What? I think he needs.
He needs it.
Sometimes
Everybody
he says,
needs it.
Yeah, he needs it.
Everybody needs it. So
I was about to call him on FaceTime.
I'll call him on FaceTime so he can see this lovely room full of Immunical participants. Okay, call him on FaceTime so but yeah, make sure he's at the health fair tomorrow. So I'll be 40 years old in September, and I am very proud to say that. And I was explaining to the other lady who's 40 years old on the plane in front of me that my friends are tore down, ran down, stressed out, and looked like they've been overworked. And sorry. And I let them know all the time that this product is what they need to get rid of that oxidative stress and inflammation, not only just in the body, but in their mental. Because people forget that stress is the #1 killer, okay? It's the #1 killer, and it is definitely the additive to all of the other autoimmune diseases that we occur in life. And when you deplete that stress, not only in the body, but in the mental, and you're more physical, you're able to move and groove. The lady says, well, I'm trying to work from home. I said, well, this is exactly what is going to get you to work from home. And you'll be less stressed by taking the product and being able to do actually more than just working from home. So the product is lovely. I'm on 1 hour of sleep. I'll be 40. I have 3 kids. I'm not stressed out. And I flew from Atlanta here to explain that to everybody, that you can get your life back in order and have a whole different lifestyle where you are feeling naturally revived, and full of life. And that's what it's all about. It's all about being fulfilling every moment on this journey called life. And I feel like without Immunical, I would not be as exciting. I'd be stressed out like my friends. So I wanted to give a different intake on this product based off of my travels today. And I hope you can kind of understand how important it is to me. So yes, get you a box of Immunical through this man right here. And I hope everybody's at the event tomorrow to have the health fair. Auntie Kim, do you want to come up and say something? She's filming me. But this is the lady who, Uncle Calvin? Come on, Uncle. Keep it really quick. He's gonna come up here and he's gonna say, take Immunical. Let's give it up to Orwa for trying something new and trusting, you know, pal. And thank DJ invited you to a music good to see. Yeah. That's right. Yes, it is good. Yeah, Uncle. Uncle will tell you why it's good to see.
Well, I'm really glad to see everyone here. We got in this morning, like Shauna, wherever we go, we talk about it. The woman next to me on the plane, we got into the conversation because she was telling me about her journey down here and she will be leaving, in a few hours. So she just came down here for the presentation. So she asked me, what did I do? What did she do that? So I told her my story and she just looked at me, blah, blah, blah. I looked at her and then we started talking about our families. And I told her, my daughter's 42. She said, oh, I'm 42. I thought maybe she was older than I was. I told my wife, I said, she's old as 40. But anyway, I got involved in this in 2005 because I had some health challenges. A lot of people get involved with this because they have health challenges. Don't wait until you get health challenges. This is what's going to happen. While I was down here, we got a phone call. Somebody stage 4 lung cancer, known about what we was doing since we started. What should I do? You see? So talk to everybody, whether they want to hear it or not, because they'll give them something to think about. But hopefully they'll think sooner than later. But now we're in a situation like, okay, we need a miracle here. But anyway, I got involved with this because I had COPD. Lung problems, couldn't breathe, didn't know about Immunical. So, as far as I was concerned, went to my pulmonary doctor. He put me in all kinds of nice little medications. I was on inhalers, so I would sit at my desk. Thought I was cool. What is this stuff that I had? Oxygen, I had these steroid pills. I had to talk to the co-workers about the pills. Well, you should try that one. But then a year later in 1999, like Central Vision went. I said, wait a minute. And the doctor said there's no pills for this one. So you can't even have a good conversation about this one. Right? So went home. My wife said, well, we're going to fix this. We're going to get this together. Because I was annoying her. Because I was like, where's the ketchup? Buy this. She's like, Phil for it. I'm like, oh, damn it. Just because you can't drive don't mean I can drive you. I was like, okay. So anyway, we started searching for some stuff. So she had me on this herb, she had me on that herb, she had me doing light therapy, chiropractor, acupuncture, drinking some Asian tea. Tea was nasty, but I liked it. But anyway, nothing worked. So here we are, 1999 to 2004, I gave up. Then I quit smoking. I didn't know that was a problem, so I stopped smoking. So anyway, stopped smoking in 2004, December 2004. Gave up, wasn't trying no more, spent too much money. Wife said, I ain't giving up. So in 2005, in December, a year later, one time I stopped smoking, she said, a friend told me about this seminar. It's about health, not interested. The doctors was right. I'm laying there looking up at the ceiling because I couldn't watch the TV. Right? So I just listened to it. So she told me a second time, I'm not interested. Then she told me the third time. She said, some friends came into town, we going out to eat. I was hungry. So I got dressed, put on my suit. I said, where are we going? Well, we got to go pick them up. I said, okay. So I don't drive, so she drives. So I'm like a prisoner. Right? So she drives to the place. I said, get to this hotel. And I said, I'll sit in the car. Nope, you got to come in. You show your hospitality. And when I get there, they said, oh, suite such and such. I was, wow, we got some rich friends. Right, so we go to the suite. Then here it is, a presentation. And I was really mad. But on the table, they had extra shop nips. That's what I called it. Now, the extra shop came back there. Took one of those extra shops, Sent me right to the bathroom. I was in there for about 5-10 minutes. Came back out, and I was focused. And they started talking about it. Long story short, I'm gonna cut this fast out. Listened to it, made sense to me. I bought 3 packages. Went home, tried it for 3 days, took 1 a day, don't work. I said, I'm finished. I'm not taking this anymore. It doesn't work. Right? All this science, it should be working in 3 days. Right? So this is December. This was the same year, December 2005. My parents' anniversary, it was their 50th. Now, we gave them a 48th one because we didn't think my dad was going to make it. So I had GQ come in, we had this big old party, right? And it was great. And then here we go, 2 years later, he's still here, so we got another party. I had my friends come in this time because GQ customers, but so anyway, at the end of the anniversary party, they rushed my dad to the hospital. They admitted him, he was bleeding in the brain. So he was in the hospital for a couple of months. So in February, they sent him home. They said he needed to go into nursing care, blah, blah, blah. Long story short, we decided we wasn't going to do that and convinced my mother to give him on the Meadow. And she said, no, we're not going to give it to him. I said, why not? She said, because you don't even take it. And I said, well, I'm blind, ain't I? So anyway, she called me back and she said, all right, we're going to try it. So I brought it over. He wouldn't take it. So she called me at work. I was still working. I said, well, you take it. Now, we're in February 2006. It was a nice day. She's outside washing the cars. We sat in by the window. She came in. He pointed to the cup. Long story short, we started taking it. Within 3 months, the doctor said he was doing really good. All his blood work was getting normal. Whatever you're doing, keep doing it. So I called my wife, told her. She said, well, you know what you're going to do? I said, what? She said, you're going to take this stuff. I said, no, I'm not. She said, you're going to take a lot of it. Yeah. I started taking it. Within 3 months, the COPD cleared up. Right? Within a year, my dad was off all his medications. Within a year, or 2 years, my wife said sooner, I started getting some central vision back where I could see you guys. Now, I don't have 20/20, it's probably more like 20/50, but it was 20/200. I couldn't walk. I couldn't walk around, I had pain. I had to go to blind school. I was just sent me to Little Rock, Arkansas to learn some new tricks. That was like prison. I broke out of prison because killed him. We had this trip with the military. Yeah, they was going to Mexico. I broke out of jail. She bought me a ticket. I never went back. But anyway, long story short, the product work is a great product. Tell everybody you know, even if they don't hear you, tell them. Because if you don't tell them, and then you hear that they have a serious health challenge, because you knew something you didn't tell them. So that's why I wanted to say I'm glad I'm here. Congratulate everybody for being here. Go up.
We had a question, I think. Yeah, look, thank y'all so much for showing up tonight. We just gotta shut it down. Stokely has a lot of things to do tomorrow. Thank y'all so much for coming out. You don't have to leave. We're not closed, but I do have to shut down this event. Thank y'all.
Thank you.